A girl with nothing to lose begs for something no one else dared to offer, and her plea forever changes the fate of 3 lives. The sun still struggled to break through the grey clouds of the morning in Oakland when Michael parked his black BMW in front of the small cafe in Rockridge. It had been his routine for 3 years: arrive before 7, occupy the corner table, and review financial reports while drinking his double espresso. Karen's cafe offered the tranquility he couldn't find in his office, where secretaries, partners, and clients competed for every minute of his attention. Michael Montgomery was 42 and had built a logistics empire from scratch: trucks, warehouses, multi-million-dollar contracts. Everything calculated, everything under control. His personal life followed the same logic: practical relationships, no deep commitments, no complications, until that Tuesday morning. Behind the counter, Karen arranged the still warm cinnamon buns. Her movements were precise, economical, like someone who had learned not to waste energy. Michael had been discreetly observing her for months. There was something in her brown eyes that intrigued him, a mixture of strength and vulnerability that she tried to hide beneath professional cordiality. "Good morning, Mr. Montgomery," Karen greeted him with her soft accent, which he had never been able to completely identify. "The usual?" "Please," he replied, without raising his eyes from the papers. That's when the door opened with unusual force. A small girl ran in, her brown hair disheveled, escaping from 2 poorly made ponytails. Her light blue dress was wrinkled, as if she had slept in it. Michael looked up, curious. "Lily," Karen called, concerned. "What are you doing here? Shouldn't you be getting ready for school?" The girl completely ignored her mother. Her dark eyes, so similar to Karen's, fixed on Michael with a determination that surprised him. She approached his table with decisive steps, holding a crumpled paper in her small hands. "Are you Michael?" she asked, planting herself in front of him. "I am," he answered, closing the folder. Something in the seriousness of this child made him pay complete attention. Lily extended the paper with both hands, like someone offering something very valuable. Michael took it and carefully unfolded it. The handwriting was large, irregular, clearly that of a 7-year-old child, but the message hit him like a punch in the stomach. "Please don't leave my mum." Silence took over the cafe. Karen had stopped working at the counter and was watching them, her hands tightly gripping her apron. Michael looked at the girl, then at the paper, then at Karen. His business mind, accustomed to quickly processing information, completely froze. "Lily, come back here now," Karen called, her voice tense. "No," the girl replied, without taking her eyes off Michael. "I need to talk to him." Michael leaned forward in his chair, bringing himself to the child's height. "What do you want to talk about, Lily?" "You promised to marry Mommy," she said, her voice firm despite her age. "But yesterday she cried all night. She thinks you're going to give up." The girl's words echoed in the morning air of the cafe. Michael felt the weight of decades of cold business decisions contrasting with the desperate simplicity of that request. It wasn't about contracts or profits. It was about 2 lives that depended on him. Karen quickly approached, extending her hand to her daughter. "Lily, enough. Let's go home." Her voice trembled slightly. "No, Mommy." Lily moved away. "I saw the letters. I saw you crying, and I saw that scary man at the door yesterday." A chill ran down Michael's spine. What man? What letters? He looked at Karen, who had visibly paled. "What man?" Michael asked, his tone changing. Karen lowered her eyes, unable to answer. It was Lily who spoke. "Ray. He always comes back. Mommy gets scared, but she pretends everything is fine." Michael slowly rose, tucking the paper into his shirt pocket. The breakfast, the reports, his day's appointments, all of that suddenly seemed insignificant in the face of the reality unfolding before him. 2 women, 1 adult, 1 child, needed him. And for the first time in a long time, Michael Montgomery found himself facing a decision that couldn't be made with just his head. If you found this story interesting, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give it a like. Tell us what city you're watching from. We'll continue. Michael remained standing for long seconds, watching Karen avoid his gaze, while Lily waited for an answer that seemed to carry the weight of the world. The cafe had become a territory of unspoken truths, and he knew he could no longer pretend that this was just a business arrangement. "Karen, we need to talk," he said, his voice softer than what he usually used in business. "Lily, can you wait at the counter? I'll buy you a hot chocolate." The girl hesitated, looking from her mother to Michael. There was an old intelligence in her eyes, as if she had witnessed too many adult conversations for her age. "You won't leave?" she asked directly. "I won't leave," Michael replied, and in saying so, he realized he was making a bigger commitment than he had intended. Lily nodded and walked to the counter, but Michael noticed that she remained close enough to hear the conversation. Karen sat in the opposite chair, her hands trembling slightly as she smoothed her apron. "How did she know about our agreement?" Michael asked, keeping his voice low. "Lily is too smart for her own protection," Karen answered, finally meeting his eyes. "She hears everything, sees everything. I tried to protect her, but she's already seen too much," Michael completed. Karen nodded, her eyes filling with tears that she fought to contain. "When Ray appeared at our door last night, she was doing homework in the living room. She hid behind the sofa but heard everything. He said he knew about our marriage, that he would stop it any way he could." Michael felt anger growing in his chest. 3 weeks ago, when Karen finally gathered the courage to tell him about her situation, the agreement had seemed simple. He needed some tax benefits that a paper marriage would provide for his companies. She needed documentation that would guarantee her permanent residency in the United States. A clean deal, without emotional complications. "Tell me exactly what," he said, Michael asked. Karen took a deep breath, her fingers nervously playing with the fake wedding ring she had been wearing for a week. "He said he has evidence that our marriage is fraudulent, that he knows people in immigration who can create problems for me, and that—" she hesitated. "And what?" "That if I don't go back to him, he'll make sure I get deported. Without Lily." The words hit Michael like a punch. He had dealt with business blackmail before, but this was different. It was personal, cruel, directed against an innocent woman and child. "How did you two meet?" he asked, trying to understand the whole story. Karen looked at Lily, who pretended to fiddle with the pastries but was clearly paying attention to every word. "We met in Honduras 8 years ago. I was very young, naive. Ray seemed different then, protective. When I discovered I was pregnant with Lily, he insisted we come to the United States, said we would have better opportunities here." "And did you?" A bitter smile crossed Karen's face. "For a while. Ray found work in construction. I started doing cleaning jobs, but he changed when Lily was born. Became possessive, violent, especially when he drank." Michael observed Lily, who had completely stopped pretending she wasn't listening. The girl approached the table again. "He hurt Mommy," she said, her voice small but firm. "That's why we ran away. That's why we live in the small apartment now." Karen extended her hand to her daughter, who approached and nestled beside her mother. Michael realized there was much more to this story than a simple convenience arrangement. "How long have you been running from him?" 2 years, Karen answered. "I got this job, rented the apartment. I thought he had given up looking for us. But last week the calls started, then the visits. He discovered where we live." Michael leaned forward, his hands resting on the table. "Why didn't you go to the police?" Karen and Lily exchanged a look that spoke volumes. "Mr. Michael," Lily said, her voice carrying a sad wisdom, "the police don't protect people like us. Mommy doesn't have papers. They could send us away." The brutal simplicity of the truth left Michael speechless. In his world of contracts and lawyers, there was always a legal solution. But for Karen and Lily, the system that should protect them represented an even greater threat. "Will the marriage solve this?" he asked. "That's what I was hoping," Karen replied. "With the proper documentation, I could report Ray without fear of being deported. Lily would have stability, could study without this shadow hanging over us." Michael looked at the two, mother and daughter, united against a world that seemed determined to separate them. His phone started ringing, probably his partner, reminding him of the 9 o'clock meeting, but he turned it off without even looking at the caller ID. "The marriage will happen," he said, his voice firm, "but we need to be more careful. If Ray suspects, others might suspect too. Karen raised her eyes, a spark of hope shining in them for the first time that morning. Are you sure? After all this? Michael looked at Lily, who was watching him, with the same intensity as earlier that morning. The paper with her request was still in his shirt pocket, and somehow Michael knew he would carry those words for a long time. I'm sure, he answered. But now this is no longer just a business deal. The morning at the cafe had completely changed Michael's mood. He arrived at his office 2 hours late, ignoring the concerned looks from his secretary Martha and the insistent phone calls from clients. He locked himself in the meeting room with a view of downtown Oakland and called his lawyer. Dr. Henry, I need to speed up the marriage process, he said, dispensing with preliminaries. Michael, we talked about this last week. These documentation cases require caution. Immigration is very rigorous with suspicious marriages. It's not suspicious, it's a real marriage. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Real? I thought it was just a matter of documentation for her and tax benefits for you. Michael ran his hand through his hair, trying to organize his own thoughts. Things have changed, Henry. She and her daughter are in danger. I need this to happen as soon as possible. What kind of danger? Her ex-partner is threatening to prevent the marriage, and worse, he's threatening to have her deported. Dr. Henry sighed deeply. Michael, this is exactly the kind of situation that raises red flags for immigration officials. If there's any indication of coercion or extreme urgency, so what do you suggest? That I leave a woman and a child at the mercy of a violent man? I suggest we document everything properly. Police reports, medical history, if there's evidence of violence, witnesses. We need to make this marriage unquestionable. Michael mentally noted every word. There was a cold logic in the lawyer's suggestion, but he knew Karen would never agree. To expose Lily to interrogations and investigations. The desk phone rang. Martha appeared at the door, visibly nervous. Mr. Montgomery, your mother is in the reception. She insists on speaking with you. Michael's stomach contracted. Eleanor Montgomery had a special talent for appearing at the worst possible moments. Send her in, he sighed. Henry, we'll talk later. Eleanor entered the room like an elegant hurricane. At 68, she maintained the lofty posture that had made her respected in Oakland's social circles for decades. Her grey hair was impeccable, her navy blue dress was clearly expensive, and her expression made it clear that she was there to solve a problem. Michael, what is this marriage story they're talking about at the club? He should have predicted this. In Oakland, especially in elite circles, nothing remained secret for long. Good morning, Mother. Nice to see you too. Don't play with me, Michael Montgomery. I received 3 phone calls last night. 3, asking about your supposed fiancée. A woman nobody knows who works at a cafe in Rockridge. Michael stood up, walking to the window. Down below, the city's movement followed its normal rhythm, people coming and going, each with their own dramas and concerns. Mother, I'm getting married. It's my decision as an adult. A decision of yours that affects the entire family, Eleanor retorted, sitting in the chair facing his desk. The Montgomerys have a reputation to uphold in this city. Your father built that name with decades of work. My father built a company. The family name is my responsibility now. Exactly. And you intend to compromise all that because of an adventure with an honest woman who works to support her daughter, Michael interrupted, his voice harsher than he intended. Eleanor raised an eyebrow, the gesture that Michael had known since childhood, and that always announced an imminent battle. Honest? Michael, do you know anything about this woman's past? About her origin? About who the child's father is? I know enough. Do you know she's an illegal immigrant? That she might be using you to get documents? His mother's words echoed the same doubts that Michael had been trying to suppress for weeks. But now, after the morning at the cafe, after seeing the desperation in Lily's eyes, these doubts seemed insignificant. Mother, I'm going to marry Karen. If that bothers your friends at the club, that's their problem, not mine. Eleanor stood up abruptly, her clutch bag hitting against the desk. You're not an impulsive young man anymore, Michael. You're 42 and have responsibilities. Think about what this could do to your business, your contracts. How many of your partners are also club members? How many clients? The question hit Michael exactly where his mother intended. She knew well the intricacies of the family business. She knew that reputation and relationships were fundamental in Oakland's business world. "People will forget," he said, but his voice didn't sound as convinced as he would have liked. "They'll forget?" Eleanor laughed, a humorless sound. "Michael, I've lived in this city for 40 years. I know how things work. A scandal like this isn't forgotten. It spreads, grows, becomes legend." She walked to the door but stopped before leaving. "I investigated the woman, Michael." Michael's blood froze. "What did you say?" "I hired a private investigator, discreet, efficient. I wanted to know who my son is getting involved with." "Mother, you had no right." "I have every right when it comes to protecting my family," she interrupted him. "And what I discovered isn't pleasant at all." Michael approached her, his voice low and dangerous. "What did you discover?" Eleanor opened her purse and took out a manila folder, placing it on the desk with a theatrical gesture. "Karen Herrera isn't just an illegal immigrant, Michael. She's tried this same scam before. 2 years ago in San Francisco with a businessman in the textile industry. The marriage was cancelled at the last minute when they discovered she was lying about her age and her past." Michael's world seemed to spin. He looked at the folder but couldn't move to open it. "Besides," Eleanor continued, relentless, "the man who's pursuing her, this Ray, isn't just a violent ex-partner. He's involved with groups that traffic people across the border. The federal police have a dossier on him." Michael finally found his voice. "This doesn't change anything." "How does it not change anything?" Eleanor exploded. "You're getting involved with criminals, Michael. You could lose everything. The company, your reputation, even your freedom." "Mother, leave my office." "Michael, leave." Eleanor took the folder back, her eyes shining with tears of anger and frustration. "When you wake up from this dream and need help cleaning up the mess, come find me. But don't wait too long. Some damage is irreversible." She left, slamming the door. Michael was left alone in the room, the weight of the revelations pressing on his chest like a stone. Everything he believed about Karen was being questioned. But one thing remained clear in his mind: the image of Lily extending that paper with her desperate plea. Truth or lie, Karen and Lily needed him. And he had promised not to abandon them. Karen finished cleaning the last tables in the cafe, her mechanical movement revealing the tension she was trying to hide. It was almost 7 in the evening, and she knew Michael would arrive at any moment for the conversation they had scheduled. Lily was doing homework at a table in the back, occasionally raising her eyes to observe her mother, with that sharp perception that always worried her. The bell on the door rang, and Michael entered. His expression was different from the morning, more closed, burdened with doubts that Karen immediately recognized. She had seen that look before in San Francisco when everything fell apart. "Hi, Michael." Lily waved from her table. "Did you bring chocolate for me?" "Of course I did," he replied, but Karen noticed the effort in his forced cheerfulness. Michael approached the counter, where she was nervously organizing the same cloths for the 3rd time. "We need to talk," he said, his voice low. "I know," Karen replied, without meeting his eyes. "Lily, finish your homework. We're going home in 10 minutes. Lily made a face but obeyed. Michael and Karen sat at a table away from her, the weight of silence growing between them like an invisible barrier. "My mother came to see me today," Michael began, his hands interlaced on the table. Karen felt her stomach sink. She had feared this moment since she agreed to the marriage. "What did she say?" "That you're not who you say you are, that you've tried the same scheme before in San Francisco, that you're lying about your age, your past." Each word was like a needle in Karen's chest. She closed her eyes, breathing deeply before responding. "She's right, about San Francisco." Michael leaned forward, his eyes searching hers. "Tell me. The truth, Karen. All of it." Karen looked at Lily, who pretended to be focused on her homework, but was clearly paying attention to the adults' conversation. 3 years ago, after I managed to escape from Ray, I went to San Francisco with Lily. I met a man named Frank who owned a clothing business. He proposed the same thing as you, a marriage of convenience to help me with my documents. And what happened? Frank changed the rules in the middle of the game, Karen replied, her voice carrying an old pain. He said that if I really wanted to marry him, I would have to prove I was a real wife, that Lily would have to call me aunt in front of people, pretend she wasn't my daughter. Michael frowned. Why? Because a single mother with an illegitimate child didn't match the image he wanted to project. He had political ambitions, wanted to be a city councilman. A traditional family sold better than a woman with a child of unknown paternity. The words came out loaded with resentment. Karen remembered perfectly the humiliation, the feeling that her dignity was worth less than Frank's convenience. Did you agree? For 2 weeks, Karen admitted, lowering her eyes, I was desperate. Ray had found us in San Francisco, too, was making threats. I thought if I endured a little, everything would resolve itself later. But it didn't resolve itself. Frank started making other demands. He wanted me to go to social events as his girlfriend, to pretend to be in love with him. And worse, she hesitated. Worse what? He wanted me to send Lily to a boarding school, said a child would interfere with their social life. Michael looked at Lily, who had completely stopped pretending she wasn't listening and was watching them with eyes bright with contained tears. That's when you gave up? That's when I realized I was trading one prison for another, Karen replied. I fled in the middle of the night, taking only what fit in 2 suitcases. Frank was furious, spread stories about me in his social circle, said I was a gold digger, that I used Lily to arouse pity in people. Michael remained silent for a long moment, processing the information. Why didn't you tell me this before? Because I thought you were just like him, Karen replied, finally meeting his eyes. All the rich men I've met wanted something in return, never something I could give without feeling less than I really am. And now, do you still think I'm like him? Karen observed Michael attentively. There was something different about him since the morning, a solidity that had nothing to do with money or power, but with a decision made in the depths of his soul. I don't know, she answered honestly. I'm still trying to understand why you're doing this. Initially, for the agreement I proposed. The tax benefits for my company are real, Michael said. But now it's different. Different how? Michael looked at Lily, who had approached their table, clearly tired of pretending she wasn't part of the conversation. Can I sit with you? She asked. I finished my homework. Karen signaled for her to sit. Lily chose the chair between the 2 adults, as if mediating an important negotiation. Uncle Michael, she said, using the title she had invented for him, will you marry Mommy even after knowing the ugly story? Michael smiled for the first time that night. Why do you call it an ugly story, Lily? Because whenever Mommy tells about San Francisco, she gets sad. And she only gets sad when she remembers ugly things. The simplicity of the explanation hit Michael hard. He looked at Karen, who was fighting back tears. Lily, your mother didn't do anything wrong in San Francisco. She was trying to protect you. I know, Lily replied, her voice serious. Mommy always protects me, even when it hurts. Michael extended his hand across the table, covering Karen's. Karen, what happened in San Francisco doesn't change anything about our situation. If you want to continue with the marriage, it will happen. Even knowing your mother will do everything to prevent it? My mother doesn't control my life, Michael replied, his voice firm, and she won't control my family. The word family hung in the air between them, loaded with meanings that neither was ready to fully explore. But Lily smiled, as if this was exactly what she had been waiting to hear. So we're going to be a real family? She asked. Karen and Michael looked at each other over the girl's head, both knowing that the answer to this question was much more complicated than any legal agreement could define. If you found this story interesting, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give it a like. Tell us what city you're watching from. We'll continue. The week following the conversation at the cafe was like navigating increasingly turbulent waters. Michael arrived at the office on Monday to find 3 important clients wanting to reschedule contracts, all citing internal restructuring that he knew were diplomatic excuses. His secretary Martha avoided his gaze, and he could feel the whispers in the corridors whenever he passed. "Mr. Montgomery," Martha called when he was about to enter his office, "the immigration lady is waiting for you in reception." Michael's blood froze. He knew this moment would come, but not so quickly. "Send her up," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. Dr. Carla Mendez was a middle-aged woman, hair tied in a severe bun and glasses that seemed to amplify her analytical gaze. She carried a thick folder and a small recorder. "Mr. Montgomery, thank you for receiving me. I'm the agent responsible for investigating your marriage request for documentation purposes for Mrs. Karen Herrera." "Investigation?" Michael sat behind his desk, trying to appear casual. "I thought these were just standard procedures." "Normally they are." Dr. Carla opened the folder, revealing photographs and documents. "But we received information suggesting that this marriage may not be genuine." Michael recognized some of the photos. Him and Karen talking at the cafe, him entering the building where she lived, the two walking with Lily in the park the previous Sunday. Someone had been following them, documenting every meeting. "May I know who provided this information?" "The reports are confidential, Mr. Montgomery, but I can say they came from multiple sources, including people close to you." Michael didn't need to guess. His mother had transformed her threat into action. "Dr. Carla, my relationship with Karen is genuine. We plan to get married because we love each other." "Interesting," she made a note, "because our investigation indicates that you've only known each other for 6 weeks, a very quick relationship for a man of your age and social position. Love doesn't follow timelines." "True, but fraudulent marriages follow very specific patterns." She placed a photo of Karen and Lily on the desk. "Illegal immigrant woman with a child in a vulnerable situation, rich, single man with no children, who would benefit fiscally from the marriage. It's a classic scenario." Michael felt anger rising, but he knew losing control would be exactly what she expected. "Dr. Carla, I intend to marry Karen because I love her and want to protect her and her daughter. If that fits into some pattern of yours, I'm sorry, but I can't change my feelings to suit your statistics." "Protect from what, Mr. Montgomery?" The question caught him off guard. He hesitated for a second, but it was enough for her to notice. "Protect her from her ex-partner, who threatens her." "Ah yes, Ray Santos." She flipped through the papers. "We have an interesting dossier on him as well. Did you know he has connections to human trafficking networks?" "I didn't know the details." "Didn't know that your future wife might be involved in these activities?" "Karen is not involved in anything illegal." "How can you be sure, Mr. Montgomery? You've known her for 6 weeks." The question echoed exactly the doubts that Michael was trying to suppress. But then he remembered Lily's eyes, Karen's genuine desperation, the vulnerability that no actress could fake so well. "I'm sure because I know her character," he said. Dr. Carla closed the folder and stood up. "Mr. Montgomery, I'll be direct. We have sufficient evidence to deny Mrs. Herrera's residence visa and initiate deportation procedures, unless you can prove, unquestionably, that this marriage is legitimate." "How can we prove that?" "By living together for at least 6 months before the marriage, demonstrating a real relationship with witnesses, cohabitation, social integration, and of course overcoming any investigation into illegal activities." She left a card on the desk. "You have a week to decide whether you want to proceed with the process or if Mrs. Herrera prefers to surrender voluntarily for deportation. That would be easier for everyone." After she left, Michael remained alone in the room, the weight of the situation crushing him. His phone rang almost immediately. "Michael, I heard about the immigration visit." It was his mother's voice, without even a greeting. "You called them." "I did what was necessary to protect my family," Eleanor replied without remorse. "There's still time to get out of this situation with your reputation intact." "Mother, you don't know what you've done." "I know exactly what I've done. I saved you from a tragedy." Michael hung up without saying goodbye. He needed to see Karen, tell her about the agent's visit, prepare for what would come next. But when he arrived at the cafe, he found it closed. A note on the door said, "Closed for personal reasons." Running to Karen's apartment, Michael climbed the 3 flights of stairs, 2 at a time. He knocked on the door harder than he intended. "Karen, it's me, Michael." The door opened just a crack, revealing Karen's worried face. "Michael, you can't be here." "Why? What happened?" "Ray was here this morning. He said he knew about the immigration agent, that he had information about our marriage that could harm us." Michael gently pushed the door, entering the small apartment. Lily was sitting on the sofa, hugging a worn teddy bear, her eyes red from crying. "What information?" Karen closed the door behind him, checking the locks twice. He said, "He has photos, Michael. Photos of you coming in and out of here at strange hours. He said he can make it seem like our relationship is just physical, not loving." "That's ridiculous. For you, maybe. But for immigration agents, it could be proof that we're lying about our feelings." Michael approached Lily, who raised her arms to him. He picked her up, feeling her tremble slightly. "Uncle Michael," she whispered in his ear, "the scary man said he's going to take Mommy away if you get married." Michael looked at Karen over Lily's head. "Did he threaten you directly?" "He said if I don't give up on the marriage by Friday, he'll turn everything he has over to immigration and the police, that he'll make sure I'm deported as a criminal, not just as an illegal immigrant." "As a criminal?" Karen hesitated, looking at Lily. "Lily, go to your room, love. I need to talk to Uncle Michael." "I don't want to go. I want to stay here with you." "You will stay. I just need 2 minutes." Lily reluctantly obeyed. As soon as the bedroom door closed, Karen sat heavily in the kitchen chair. "Michael, there's something you need to know about how I came to the United States." The tone of her voice made his stomach contract. "What?" "I didn't come willingly. Ray brought me, but not as I thought. I was merchandise, Michael. He sold me to work in family homes, promising that I could have my own life afterward. When I discovered I was pregnant with Lily, I managed to escape. But technically I entered the country illegally, with falsified documents that he provided." Michael's world seemed to spin. Everything was starting to make sense. Karen's fear, Ray's threats, the immigration agent's insistence. "Karen, it means that if Ray tells this version of the story, I'm not just an illegal immigrant. I'm a victim of human trafficking, but also technically an accomplice for having used false documents. I can be deported and still face criminal charges." Michael sat on the floor, his legs no longer able to support him. The woman he had promised to protect was in a much worse situation than he had imagined, and now, because of him, the noose was rapidly tightening around them. Michael spent the entire night awake in Karen's apartment, sitting in the small living room while she and Lily slept. His mind worked frantically, trying to find a way out of the legal labyrinth they were in. With each passing hour, the situation seemed more impossible. At dawn, he made a decision that he knew was risky, but necessary. "Karen," he called, when he saw her get up to prepare breakfast. "I need to talk to Ray." Karen almost dropped the cup she was holding. "Michael, have you lost your mind? He's dangerous." "Exactly why. I need to understand what he really wants. Every blackmail has a price. I need to know his." "He wants me to come back to him," Karen said, her voice trembling. "It's always been that." "It's not just that." Michael moved closer to her. "If it were, he would have tried to force you directly. All this staging with immigration, the photos, the threats, there's something more." Lily appeared at the bedroom door, still in pajamas, her hair tousled from sleep. "Why are you talking about the scary man again?" she asked, approaching Karen. Michael knelt down to the girl's height. "Lily, I'm going to solve this. But I need you to be brave and help Mommy while I'm gone, okay? Are you going to fight with him?" "I'm not going to fight. I'm going to talk." Lily frowned, her small face expressing a seriousness that Michael was learning to recognize. Adults always say they're just going to talk, but then someone gets hurt. The observation hit Michael in the chest. How many conversations between adults had this child witnessed? "I promise you no one will get hurt," he said, "but I need to figure out how to protect both of you." Karen sat next to Lily, putting her arm around her daughter's shoulders. "Michael, if you really want to do this, I'll give you his number, but I'm going with you." "Absolutely not." It's not negotiable, Karen interrupted him, her voice firm. This is my life, my daughter, my mess. If you're going to confront Ray, I'll be there. 2 hours later, Michael was standing in front of a bar in Oakland's outskirts, a place he definitely didn't frequent. Karen was beside him, tense but determined. They had left Lily with the neighbor, an elderly lady who asked too many questions, but took good care of the girl. Ray was sitting alone at a table in the back of the bar, appearing to be at home in that somber environment. He was taller than Michael had imagined, with muscular arms covered in tattoos and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. When he saw them entering, his smile widened. "Karen, my love," he said, standing up. "I knew you'd come back to me." "I didn't come back for anything," Karen replied, maintaining her distance. "I came so you'd stop these threats." Ray looked at Michael with disdain. "And you brought your rich little dog along." Michael felt anger rising but kept his voice calm. "What do you want, Ray?" "Straight to the point. I like that." Ray sat back down, gesturing for them to sit too. They remained standing. "I want several things. First, I want my family back." "We were never your family," Karen said. "Of course you were," Ray retorted. "You took my daughter from me, Karen. Lily is my daughter." Michael felt like he'd been punched. "Lily is not your daughter," Karen said, but her voice faltered slightly. "No?" Ray took a worn photo from his pocket. It was Karen, visibly younger, pregnant, next to a man who was clearly him. This photo was taken 2 months before Lily was born. We had been together for almost 2 years by that time. Michael looked at Karen, who had paled. "Karen," he began. "She never told you, did she, rich guy?" Ray laughed. "Karen ran away with me while pregnant with another man's child. Lily isn't the daughter of either of us." "That's not true," Karen whispered. "It's not? Then why could you never give me her birth certificate? Why did you always make excuses when I wanted to register the girl with my name?" Michael felt the world spinning around him. He looked at Karen, searching for a denial in her eyes, but found only tears. "Ray, stop!" Karen pleaded. "I won't stop, Karen. I'm tired of being treated like an idiot." Ray leaned forward. "You used me. You're trying to use him. And in the middle of all this is a child who doesn't know who her father is." "Who is Lily's father?" Michael asked, his voice coming out harsher than he intended. Karen closed her eyes, tears running down her face. "I don't know," she whispered. The silence that followed was crushing. Ray smiled with satisfaction, like someone who had just scored a decisive point. "Now you understand the situation, rich guy," he said to Michael. "Karen got pregnant in Honduras, didn't know by whom. She ran away with me because I offered protection. We came to the United States, I supported her, took care of her and the child as if she were my own daughter. And how did she thank me? By running away in the middle of the night." Michael looked at Karen, trying to process this new information. Everything made sense now. Her reluctance to talk about Lily's father, the constant fear, the feeling that she was always running from something. "Even so," Michael finally said, "that doesn't give you the right to threaten her or Lily." "I'm not threatening anyone," Ray replied calmly. "I'm protecting my family. Karen can pretend otherwise, but she and Lily are all I have, and I won't let a stranger destroy that." "Ray," Karen spoke, her voice firmer now, "you never loved me. You controlled me, isolated me, hurt me when I tried to have my own will." "I protected you," he retorted. "You were young, naive, pregnant by a man who abandoned you. I offered you a family, a home, stability. You offered me a prison. And him?" Ray pointed to Michael. "What does he offer you, a fake marriage for convenience? Do you really think that when this farce is over, he'll still be in your life?" The question hit Michael deeply because it echoed his own doubts. What did he really feel for Karen? Was it love or just a protective instinct awakened by a dramatic situation? "What do you want to leave Karen and Lily in peace?" Michael asked. "I want a deal," Ray replied. "You cancel this fake marriage, Karen comes back to me willingly, and I don't turn over the information I have to immigration. And if she doesn't want to come back? Then she and the girl are deported as criminals. And you, rich guy, face charges for facilitating illegal immigration and document falsification." Ray stood up, putting money on the table. Karen has until Friday to decide, 3 days. He walked to the door, but stopped and turned. Oh, Karen, just so you don't forget who really took care of you too. He threw a key on the table. The key to the apartment I rented for you and Lily. The one you call mine has actually been in my name for 2 years. One word from me, and you're on the street. And he left, leaving Karen and Michael alone in the somber bar, the weight of his revelations crushing any hope they might still have. The way back home was made in absolute silence. Karen looked out the car window, tears silently running down, her face while Michael drove trying to organize his thoughts. Ray's revelations had shaken everything he believed about the situation, but one thing remained clear. Karen and Lily needed him more than ever. When they arrived at the building, they found the neighbor, Mrs. Carmen, waiting at the door with Lily. The girl ran to Karen as soon as she saw her, hugging her legs tightly. "Mommy, are you okay? Your eyes are red." "I'm fine, love," Karen lied, caressing her daughter's hair. "I'm just tired." Mrs. Carmen looked from Karen to Michael, her expression concerned. "A man showed up here an hour ago," she said quietly. "He said he was Lily's father, that he had the right to see her. I didn't let him come up, but he got very angry." Michael and Karen exchanged alarmed looks. Ray hadn't wasted any time. "Thank you, Mrs. Carmen," Karen said. "You did the right thing." After the neighbor left, the three went up to the apartment. Lily ran to the bedroom to get a drawing she had made during the morning, leaving Karen and Michael alone in the living room. "Karen, I need you to tell me everything," Michael said, his voice gentle but firm. "About Lily's father, about how you really came to the United States, about everything." Karen sat on the sofa, her hands trembling slightly. "You'll hate me when you know the truth." "Let me decide that." Karen took a deep breath, as if preparing to dive into deep waters. "I was 17 when I got pregnant with Lily. I was living with my aunt in Tegucigalpa after my parents died. I wasn't a good girl, Michael. I went out, drank, got involved with men I shouldn't have." Michael remained silent, just listening. "For 3 months, I was involved with different men. It was never anything serious, never love. It was just a way to forget the pain of having lost my family. When I discovered I was pregnant, I had no idea who the father was. The words came out with difficulty, as if each one hurt. I tried to get some of them to take responsibility, but they all denied it. One of them even accused me of lying about the pregnancy. That's when I met Ray." "How did you meet?" "He frequented the bar where I worked. Unlike the others, he was interested in me, even knowing I was pregnant. He offered to take care of me, of the baby, said he wanted to build a family with me." Lily came running from the room, interrupting the conversation. She proudly showed a drawing of 3 people holding hands in front of a house. "Look, Uncle Michael, I drew our family." Michael looked at the drawing, his heart aching. On the paper, there was a brunette woman, a tall man, and a small girl, all smiling. The simplicity of the drawing painfully contrasted with the complexity of the real situation. "It's beautiful, Lily," he said, hugging the girl. "You're very talented. Can I stick it on the refrigerator?" "Of course you can," Karen replied, forcing a smile. After Lily went to the kitchen, Karen continued her story. "At first, Ray was wonderful, caring, attentive, protective. But when we came to the United States, everything changed. He became possessive, controlling. He wanted to know where I was every minute, who I talked to, what I did. And you never tried to leave." "I tried a few times, but he always found me. And I was afraid, Michael, afraid of raising Lily alone, afraid of not being able to support myself, afraid that he would carry out the threats he made." Michael stood up and walked to the window, observing the street below. He could see a man leaning against a black car, clearly watching the building. "Karen, he's down there." Karen ran to the window and turned pale when she saw Ray. "He's watching us." "Mommy, what's happening?" Lily appeared in the living room, sensing the tension in the air. Karen knelt down to her daughter's height, holding her small hands. "Lily, I need to tell you something important. You're a big girl now, so I think you can understand." "What is it, Mommy?" Remember when you asked me about your daddy and I said we'd talk about it someday? Lily nodded, her eyes large and attentive. Well, the truth is that I don't know who your biological father is. When you were born, I was very young and going through difficult times. Uncle Ray took care of us for a while, but he's not your real father. And Uncle Michael. The innocent question hit Michael deeply. He knelt beside Karen, looking into Lily's eyes. Lily, I'm not your biological father either, but that doesn't mean I don't care about you. Sometimes families form in different ways. Lily was silent for a moment, processing the information. So, I don't have a daddy. You have people who love you, Karen replied, tears in her eyes, and that's what really matters. Does Uncle Ray love me? The question left Karen speechless. How do you explain to a 7-year-old child the difference between love and possession? Uncle Ray cares about you in his own way, Michael answered carefully, but sometimes people care in ways that aren't healthy. Lily nodded, as if this made sense to her. Uncle Michael, will you stay with us even though you're not my real daddy? Michael looked at Karen, then back at Lily. At that moment, he realized that his decision had nothing to do with legal agreements or tax benefits. It didn't even have to do with romantic love. It had to do with the family they had created, imperfect and unconventional, but real. I'll stay, Lily. No matter what happens, I won't abandon you. Even if we have to leave the United States. The question caught Michael by surprise. He hadn't considered that possibility. You won't be sent away, he said, more to himself than to her. How do you know? Michael looked out the window once more. Ray was still there, waiting. The ultimatum expired in 3 days. The situation seemed impossible, but for the first time since it all began, Michael had an idea. Because sometimes when people really care about each other, they find a way to stay together, he said. Karen looked at him, a spark of hope shining in her eyes. You have a plan? Michael smiled for the first time in days. He's starting to have one. On Friday morning, Michael woke up at 5 o'clock on Karen's sofa, where he had spent the last 3 days. His plan was ready, but it depended on an element he had discovered only the night before. Dr. Henry, his lawyer, had called with information that completely changed the game. Karen was in the kitchen, preparing coffee with trembling hands. It was the last day of Ray's ultimatum. Michael, maybe it's better if I accept his proposal, she said, unable to meet his eyes. I can't destroy your life because of my problems. Karen, look at me, Michael approached, holding her hands. Remember, I said I had a plan? Well, it's time to execute it. Lily appeared at the kitchen door, still in pajamas. Uncle Michael, is today the day we decide if we're going to be a family or not? The simplicity of the girl's question contrasted with the complexity of the situation, but Michael smiled. Today is the day we discover we already are a family, Lily. Michael's phone rang. It was Dr. Henry. Michael, I got the information you asked for. Ray Santos has more secrets than we imagined. You can speak in front of Karen. Ray isn't just a violent ex-partner. He's been wanted by the federal police for 2 years for involvement in a network of document forgery and immigrant extortion. Karen's apartment isn't really in his name. The documents are fake. Michael felt a wave of relief mixed with anger. Continue. More importantly, I managed to locate records of Karen's entry into the United States. She didn't enter illegally as we thought. There's a valid tourist visa in her name from 2.5 years ago. Ray lied about that too. Karen's eyes widened, but he said my documents were fake. They were the documents he forged later, Dr. Henry explained. Your original documents are legitimate. Karen, you have the legal right to remain in the United States. You can even apply for permanent residency through your work. Karen's legs gave way, and she sat down abruptly in the chair. This means that... It means Ray has no power over you, Michael completed. He never did. Lily approached her mother, hugging her waist. Mommy, does that mean we're not leaving? We're not leaving, love, Karen whispered, tears of relief running down her face. Michael continued talking with the lawyer. Dr. Henry, I need you to contact Dr. Carla Mendez from Immigration. Tell her we have important information about an immigrant extortion network, And call the federal police too. I'm arranging everything. After hanging up, Michael sat next to Karen. It's not over yet. We need to confront Ray one more time, but this time with the truth. Michael, what? If he gets violent? He won't. He'll be surrounded by federal agents. 2 hours later, Michael, Karen and Lily were at the same bar where they had met Ray on Tuesday. But this time they weren't alone. Disguised in the place, 3 federal police agents awaited the signal. Ray arrived punctually at noon, his confident smile disappearing when he saw the determined expression on Michael's face. Well, Karen, made your decision? I did, Karen replied, her voice firm. I decided I won't be blackmailed by you anymore. Ray laughed, a humorless sound. I don't think you understand the situation. By 6 o'clock today, either you come back with me or what, Ray? Michael interrupted. You'll turn Karen in to immigration with documents you forged yourself? You'll tell the federal police about your extortion schemes? Ray's smile froze. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that you're not who you say you are. Michael leaned forward. Ray Santos isn't even your real name, is it, Robert Silva? The man visibly paled. I'm talking about the fake documents, the immigrants you extorted, the lies you told Karen all these years. You can't prove anything. Yes, I can, Michael signaled to the federal agents who approached the table. Karen, Lily, step back a bit. Robert Silva, you're under arrest for document forgery, extortion, and criminal conspiracy, announced the lead agent, showing his badge. Ray stood up abruptly, but 2 other agents were already behind him. Karen, he shouted, being handcuffed. You don't know what you're doing. I protected you. I took care of you. You never protected me, Ray, Karen replied, Lily safe in her arms. You imprisoned me with lies. As Ray was being taken away, he shouted one last time. Karen, I love you. Lily is my daughter. It was then that Lily, who had remained quiet throughout the scene, spoke for the first time. You're not my father. My father wouldn't hurt my mother. The girl's words echoed in the silent bar, carrying a truth that all the documents in the world couldn't contest. 3 months later, Michael was at the same cafe where it all began, but now the atmosphere was completely different. Karen worked behind the counter, but no longer as an employee. She had managed to buy the establishment with the help of a loan that Michael co-signed. Lily was sitting at his usual table, doing homework. Occasionally, she would look up to smile at Michael, who was reviewing contracts while drinking his double espresso. Michael, Karen approached with a new cup. A letter arrived for you. It was from Dr. Carla Mendez from Immigration. Michael opened it carefully. Mr. Montgomery, after a complete investigation, we have determined that there are no irregularities in the relationship between you and Mrs. Karen Herrera. Mrs. Herrera's permanent residence process has been approved. We would like to congratulate you on the commitment and love demonstrated during this difficult period. Michael showed the letter to Karen, who smiled for the first time since he had met her, a complete smile without shadows. And now, she asked. Now you two are officially American, Michael replied, and I need to ask you a question. He stood up, taking a small box from his pocket. Karen's eyes widened. Karen Herrera, will you marry me? Not for convenience, not for documents, but because I love you and love Lily as if she were my own daughter. Say yes, Mommy, Lily shouted from her table, making the whole cafe laugh. Karen looked at Michael, then at Lily, then back at Michael. Tears of happiness shone in her eyes. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll form a real family with you. When Michael placed the ring on Karen's finger, Lily ran to hug them. There, in the small cafe in Rockridge, 3 people who had met through necessity discovered they were united by something much stronger. True love. Outside, Oakland continued its normal rhythm, but inside the cafe a new family had been born, not through blood ties, but through the bonds of the heart. And for the first time in a long time,